Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For our radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also tuning in online worldwide, thanks to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. We're glad you all could be with us as well. You guys know I love sharing great books with you guys, especially as we're kicking off National Poetry Month. Our next guest has written a book that is so great for young people, but I think all of us can get something from it. We're excited to welcome award-winning author Aida Salazar to our broadcast today. Aida's new book is called Ultraviolet. We're going to talk to her not only about her love of writing, but what it's been like for her to tell stories like Ultraviolet, to be able to get people talking, but also getting us to thinking about ourselves and others as well. Aida, thank you again for stopping by. I really appreciate the time.
Oh, I am so excited to be here with you, Cyrus. Thank you so much.
Hey, glad to have you. Happy Pub Day to you again. So, Aida, I have to say, Ultraviolet is such a powerful book for young people, but as I said, for us adults as well, and of course, us adults are a big part of this story as well. What has it been like for you, even before the release, Aida, to be able to see the way that people are responding to it?
Well, it's been very touching, somewhat surprising, but also very touching. This is the first time that I've written a story from a boy's perspective, and so I was very nervous about that. Because, I wanted to be able to tell an authentic story, a story that really moved people. And all of the kind of the advanced readers have hopefully, what they've expressed is that they really enjoy it. It's received 3-star reviews from the trade journals. Cricket's called it a story that sings to the soul. And so, my male colleagues, award-winning authors have said that they call it a lyrical explosion, masterful. These were really wonderful, beautiful things about the book. So the reception has been fantastic.
Yeah. And you're able to do something that I think is so important, Aida, in this book, and that is to remind us that young people, there are a lot of things that they go through. A lot of times they don't always feel comfortable talking about them. I love the fact that even in the book, even having the self-conversations are not easy, but you've created a safe place for young people to discuss these things with your characters, but also for adults as well. Talk to us about how the idea for this book came about.
Sure. I should probably tell you what the book is about, right? Like, tell your listeners. The book is about a little boy who falls in love for the very first time and sees everything in ultraviolet colors, but then gets his heart broken, and he has to deal with all of the emotions that come with losing, but as well as dealing with all the emotions that come with bodily changes. So it's a humorous and heartfelt story meant to kind of explore that space. But that story came from my son, inspired by my son and his best friend, who, after I'd written my first book, The Moon Within, which was about rites of passages and menstruation and puberty and boy drama from a girl's perspective, they read it, and then they both loved the story, but they were felt a little bit outside of it. And my son's best friend said, "Miss Aida, when are you going to write The Sun Within?" And my son says, "Yeah, Mom, when are you going to write a story about me?" And I was like, oh, my goodness, it just kind of dawned on me that they were yearning for a space, an interior space, to explore all of these things from their perspective. And as I started doing research about books that were on the market that were similar, I didn't find very many. And it kind of was really telling that something that is so essential for any human is that we've failed our boys in many ways to provide these kinds of stories. And patriarchy has made it so that our boys are taught not to cry, to not feel these very vulnerable feelings. And so they were yearning for that, and this is my attempt to provide that. for them and for other young people going through the same process.
Such a great thing, and I love the fact how you allude to that. I also love the fact, Aida, in the book, how, as I mentioned, that the young people are able to talk about their feelings, their changes, these things with one another, which makes them feel less alone. But also that the dads also being able to have their own conversations. Why was that an important element for you with the story?
Well, I think in children's literature, it's often, kids are taught often to, have agency and be, their own person and whatnot. But the community that I come from, which is a Latino community, it's intergenerational. The wisdom is passed grandparents and elders to young people, and we kind of really rely on our elders to tell these stories. And so, to live and to guide us, right? And so I really wanted to incorporate that because oftentimes, when that is disconnected, when we're disconnected from community, we're disconnected from elders, we're lost. And so, and there's no time limit as to when one can learn and one can adapt and one can change. And in the story, the father is kind of like this macho dude that doesn't want his kid to cry. And he goes on a journey. And I've written a men's group, a boys group, who are trying to kind of rewrite this narrative of machismo and toxic masculinity that they've been enshrined in. And so the community helps the boy understand what it is to become a man in a new way, in a way that's more vulnerable and is more gentle and more thoughtful, and so as not to perpetuate this kind of same, violence and toxicity that we're seeing, from our homes to the streets to the world stage. I think there are a lot of good men in the world that are trying to change that and trying to be nonviolent, trying to be gentle and kind in the world, and I wanted to show that in the story.
Yeah. I'm not going to give anything away, Aida, but I do love the fact, and I'm sure parents will appreciate the fact, and even young people, that you allow different voices to be heard, right, when it comes to love and identity. I'm sure that's one of those things, too. I'm curious, though, were you surprised that has been so welcoming as well?
Yeah. Well, that's actually the fun part, right? When I write in poetry and write a story, you have to have dialogue. You have to have scenes, right? And so being able to kind of hone in on a voice, right? Like what does that person sound like? One of my great teachers, Linda Sue Park, who's a children's book writer, she taught me that voice is language, word choice, rhythm, and punctuation. And so how somebody speaks, how they pause, how they exclaim or don't, or question, if they speak with a little question at the end, like all of these little nuances help create a character. And so it was so much fun to think about, well, Elliot's a 13-year-old boy. What is he going to sound like? What is he going to say? And so, like, if you open up the first page of the book, he sounds like this. He sounds, who invented love anyway? Had to be a girl, right? Had to be, because I don't get it. Who can understand the feeling of shimmering soul that swallows anything smart you want to say and tangles your blushing nerves up inside your growling gut so bad you almost want to fart, so bad your skin turns all goosebumpy? Just by looking at the brown vessels of her eyes, the embers of her cheeks, hearing the sound of her voice in the key of F, entering your ears, taking root inside the blob of your 13-year-old dude brain, and washing everything you see with a reel of colors beyond the spectrum, right? So you hear this 13-year-old boy, and so voices, I think, are really important. And then there's the girl voices, right? Like that are, peppered with a whole different kind of music.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's kind of part of the poetic toolbox that I have and I bring to this storytelling.
Love that. Poetic Toolbox. I love that. I love that. And I love this conversation with you, Aida, and I'm so glad now people get to enjoy this book as I did. Again, everyone, award-winning author Aida Salazar has been our guest. Ultraviolet is her new book. You guys have to get it for those young and those also young at heart as well. You'll definitely enjoy the way it's written. And as we both mentioned, it's written in such a poetic way, and it's National Poetry Month, so another great reason to be able to get the book for yourself through our friends at Amazon or your favorite local bookstore. And, Aida, how can our audience stay connected with you?
Well, you can find me mostly on Instagram at Aida, A-I-D-A, and or my website, also Aida, AIDA, SALAZAR.com.
Well, Aida, enjoyed this pub day, and I definitely enjoyed this conversation, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cyrus.
More than welcome. We thank you, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live, and let's go make today amazing. Take care.